You're looking live at Mike Gross's basement. Thanks for joining us in the Low Post, which is a complete waste of time, but they pay us anyhow. So we're here again with another topic, sports topics here, Mike. We've got a couple good ones for you. We're going to start with LA Lakers playing the Boston Celtics. The NBA Finals will be our first topic this week. And, Celtics at this point of our taping on a Tuesday, they play tonight again, are up 2-0 in the series as they go back to LA for tonight's game. And I'm amazed that they're up 2-0 and just how they've done it so far for the Celtics. Mike, what impresses you the most so far with these games?
What a gutless performance by the Los Angeles Lakers, in my view. I mean, they really, at least in these two games, they have been a soft team. And I think soft enough that it calls into question not just the Lakers. I think it calls into question this assumption that we've had for a while now that the Western Conference is this mega stacked, vastly superior half of the league. I'm even calling that into question a little bit based on what I've seen the last couple of games. The Lakers have not been very good defensively.
Where's the D in LA?
They've been outworked. They've been out-rebounded. And some of the individual – Lamar Odom. Hello. I mean, brutal performance. And it looks like an extremely limited player. And I'm surprised that this has happened. I still don't buy into the notion of Kobe Bryant as a great teammate. And I've seen and read some things in the last couple of days that support that. I think because of the 2-3-2 format, it can still be a long series.
Play the next 3 games in LA.
Right. But they have to – LA would have to win 4 of the next 5 to win the championship. I just think that's a real long shot after what we've seen the games 1 and 2.
It's interesting during a crisis how people change a little bit. When you're winning, it's great to be the team player. Now, I'm not going to pick on Kobe right now. I'm not going to turn on him right now. I've been very critical of him in the past. I sort of said this year I was impressed with him. I won't change it. But I didn't like some of his comments after Game 2. He was just sort of finger-pointing, and he was sitting by himself even as the game was getting done. And I just thought, it's only one loss, and he sort of was reverting back to some of his old ways, which I didn't like.
He's an awful guy, body language guy.
Yeah, he is.
He really, really is in terms of being a teammate. And it's possible to read too much into that. But based on some of the things I've read and observed over the last couple of days about what he was saying and how he was interacting with his teammates, I don't think it's overblown in this case. This guy is, as you so aptly put it, Starkey. I mean, he's a great teammate when things are going well. Less so when they're not, and that's when it matters.
Who does he always compare himself to?
Jordan.
Would Michael Jordan have done that if they would have lost Game 2 against, you name it, Utah? Would he have reacted that way?
Well, that actually is an interesting question because Jordan was not a great, feel good, let's all join hands and sing Kumbaya kind of thing as a teammate either.
Which is how we're going to end the show this week. Go ahead.
Wow, something to look forward to. But I still don't. I think there's a standoffish, it's all about me side to it that I detect in Kobe that I did not detect in Jordan.
I agree with you. We're saying about the negative things with the Lakers. What have you seen from the Celtics that makes you think, wow, these guys are playing pretty well? They're up 2-0 right now. Let's give them some credit here.
Oh, absolutely. And this is a team that has completely remade itself in 1 year and is on the verge of winning the whole deal. It's an amazing story. They have an assistant coach by the name, I think his name is Tom Thibodeau.
Sounds right. The last name. Good job on the pronunciation.
Who is? I did what I could with what I had to work with. Who is supposedly one of the top defensive gurus in the NBA. Really a guy who's doing a lot of the X's and O's, and he has found a way to keep Kobe Bryant away from the basket better than anybody that I've seen. And when you keep Kobe away from the basket, number one, you make him a jump shooter, and he's just an okay jump shooter. Number two, I think a lot of the points that Odom and Gasol get sort of come from Kobe wreaking havoc in the lane. Yeah. And when those guys kind of have to catch it in the low post with no help and make a play and make a move and score, we're finding that they're just not that good at that. Odom, it just seems completely like a fish out of water to me in this series so far. So I think defensively the Celtics have done a tremendous job, and they've out-hustled them. They've outworked them. Their players have made more plays. I mean, Pierce has been great. Garnett's been great. Everything about it has been pro Celtics, except that the Lakers put on a run at the very end of Game 2, got to the point where they were down 2 in the last minute, and I think that kind of has some that brings some baggage into Game 3.
Lakers hit a lot of threes late to get back in the game.
They did.
Couple interesting points. Tom Thibodeau, that we're going to go with the assistant coach of the Celtics. Back in '95, when the Sixers were so bad, John Lucas was coaching him. He was assistant coach on that staff. I don't know why I remember that, but he was. He was with the Sixers.
One of those guys that's a journeyman, you never hear him talk about for a head coaching job, but he's been around and very, very highly regarded.
If the Celtics win this, I think he might be up for a head coaching job somewhere.
Makes sense.
It just might happen.
Makes sense.
One more interesting point. We talk about the big stars in this game, the guys that are playing well, those that aren't. Rondo, the point guard of the Celtics, has been outstanding. His name didn't come up at all in any of our discussions. 16 assists, I believe, on their last Game 2 win. Just been playing great, making the all the right decisions. They bring in Sam Cassell, the veteran point guard, and yet Rondo's stealing all the minutes because he's playing like a veteran out there, and he's only in his second year.
Yeah, he's been great. He's very athletic. You watch him do some things athletically. It almost reminds me a little bit of Iverson. Just in I mean, I'm not saying a similar player, but just as a raw athlete, I think he's I think he's knows his role, distributes the ball, and is athletic enough that Derek Fisher is really not going to deter him that much. So yeah, he's one of the many things that have gone right for the Celtics has been this guy's play.
Very good. Hey, set me up for the stat of the week this week, will you?
Starkey, you know that there's a groundswell of public desire for more stat of the week. So lay it on us.
By the numbers, 301. That is the number of wins the Phillies have had since 2005. That all comes under the management of one Charlie Manuel. Can you believe it? 301 wins. The most in the NL in that time.
They lead the National League in wins.
With that in mind, is Charlie the coach of the year or what? I mean, this guy's a genius out there, right?
He is. He is a genius. It's hard to when I watch Charlie just move around with this goofy sort of way that all the parts are moving in different directions. I'm thinking Country Bear Jamboree at Disney World. That's the first thing that comes to mind, and that does not go with a genius. So I don't think genius, but I do think that Charlie Manuel is impressive in some ways. Having observed him a little bit when I go down and cover the Phillies, he's a guy who I think really genuinely likes baseball players and likes hanging around baseball players, and that's one of the things I think the players dig that. I think they perceive that and like it, and there's a very good relationship there, and I think it was reflected in some of the things that he's had to do in terms of discipline in the last couple of weeks with the Phillies. They were accepting of it because of the relationship that he has with them.
And let's get into that in a few moments. We're going to talk about a couple different instances where he's had to sort of step up and be the hard-nosed coach. But 15-4 is their record since May 19th, Mike. 15-4.
Right.
They had just lost 3 straight games on May 19th when he sort of had a players-only meeting. No, but he was there. It was like, after the game gets done, he calls them all in the clubhouse and hollers at them. Mm-hmm. He hollered at Shane Victorino for, I'm not sure if he called out Victorino by name, but he sort of said, stop complaining about playing time. If you're playing well, you'll get your playing time. Well, Victorino right after that went on a 14-game hitting streak. Was very instrumental over the weekend when they swept the Braves this last weekend. I'm getting this information from Jim Salisbury's piece that was in the Inquirer on Friday.
A terrific baseball
June 6th article.
One of the guys who's really on top of what's going on.
I've been down in Philadelphia, as you have, and just watched this guy work, and he just has an insight with the players. But he didn't even have this information until Thursday about this meeting that took place. And Manuel sort of laid these guys to task, and since then they've gone crazy. They were 24-22 when he had this meeting, and they now are 39-26. And that's why they're in first place.
No question.
Now, Jim writes this and said about this article going, this is the first time you guys didn't know about something, but it all came to surface after what happened Thursday afternoon. They had a day game against the Reds where Jimmy Rollins didn't run out a fly ball that wound up being dropped in for a hit.
Right.
So he should have been second. He was only at first. And why don't you set us up on what happened then?
Well, first of all, let's go back to the meeting. As I understand it, the meeting happened on the same day that Jeff Jenkins, it was in Washington, hit a ball thought sure he had hit a home run and stood there and admired his work.
Okay.
And it ended up going off the wall, and he was able to sprint like crazy once he realized that it wasn't a home run and got a double out of it. But it was supposedly that kind of prompted Charlie to say, hey, we're not going to put up with this anymore. Now he has an opportunity to back up his words with actions because of the Jimmy Rollins thing, and he yanks the reigning National League MVP,
leader on the team,
out of the game. Yanks him out of the game, and what was instructive there was Rollins' reaction to that, because he basically said, hey, this guy has two rules for us. Be on time and hustle. I broke one of the rules, and what he did in response to that was completely appropriate. There's no problem between me and Charlie Manuel, and it's the kind of thing that it's easier to do when you're winning, of course, but it's the kind of thing that where Charlie really had to put up or shut up, and he put up.
But Charlie's made some other moves lately. I was thinking about Jeff Jenkins came in to pinch hit the other day, and it wasn't the logical move when Greg Dobbs leads the league in pinch hits, and yet Jenkins comes in and hits a home run. I mean, that was
a funny situation there because as I think that was in the fifth inning, and I thought when I saw Jenkins come in, I thought, well, he's saving Dobbs for later in a close game because it's only the fifth inning. It's the middle of the game. I thought he's saving Dobbs for later in a close game. Seventh inning with a tie game, Burrell's coming up against a right-hander. Burrell doesn't hit right-handers very well, never has. I thought, well, now here's the spot he's been setting up for Greg Dobbs, and we didn't see Greg Dobbs. He let Burrell hit against the right-hander, and he got a two-run double. So, I mean, it's almost like it's ridiculous how like he's playing a slot machine. You know, he's
when you're
winning
hot,
and winning and winning.
When you're hot, you're hot. Keep going to the hot. And the Phillies are really hot right now. They just swept the Braves. They've got the Marlins now, and they're in Florida. They need to keep winning right now because what I've always seen in baseball, it's a game of streaks. They're hot right now, and I imagine when they cool off, it'll probably be a 5-game losing streak. It just seems to work that way. So build up your lead right now in the division. They're up by about 3.5 over the Marlins. So this could really put some distance this next coming couple games in there, Mike, as well.
No question. They're rolling, and of course it's easy to say, well, you got to keep rolling. It's a long season, and as you're saying, there are going to be down patches, but they're in good shape right now.
Talk about a guy who's in pretty good shape for the Hall of Fame, maybe, if his numbers add up. This guy, I tell you what, I started becoming a Mariners fan, and my nephew, Cale Byler, became a Seattle Mariners fan for the same reason. Ken Griffey Jr. broke in the league, drafted in 87, broke in with the Mariners in 89. This guy just hit 600 home runs over the, Monday night. But, Mike, does 600 really mean what it used to mean anymore in baseball? Not when you have 756 home runs by Bonds for a career and 73 home runs in a season. Is 600 really that elite of a number anymore? And is this guy a Hall of Famer?
A couple of things. Number one, we've scoffed a lot at the name dropping, but when you can drop Cale Byler's name, you got to do it.
He works in sports as well.
One of our gang, one of our posse. There's no question that Griffey's a Hall of Famer. 6 people in the history of the game have hit 600 home runs. He's one of them. I mean, and was an excellent all-around player for a long time. There's no doubt that he's in the Hall of Fame. There's also no doubt that 600 home runs is not the big deal that it once was, because he came along right square in the what is going to come to be known as the steroid era. And although
insert asterisk here,
yeah, although everybody seems to consider it a foregone conclusion that he's clean.
Yes,
there's no evidence that he's ever had anything to do with performance-enhancing drugs at all.
Never been.
And certainly, if he did performance-enhancing drugs and they're supposed to have this regenerative quality, they must not be working because he's had so many injuries. But probably 700 home runs if he'd have been relatively healthy throughout the course of his career.
The last 5 years with the Reds, you forgot Ken Griffey was there because he was on again, off again, hurt. But his first 10 years with the Mariners, from like 89 to 99, were outstanding. He had 398 home runs during that span. I mean, that's what got him close to 600 here, folks. Sure. 4 seasons of 94, 97, 98, 99. He was voted the AL MVP. Led the league in home runs in AL MVP in 97. And he batted .297 during his time. So I still think he's a Hall of Famer, but I will put an asterisk next to his name because he's in that era, even though I've never heard him linked to steroids. But then again, I never heard of Rafael Palmeiro linked to steroids until Jose Canseco writes a book and then he, flunks a test. So I think there still needs to be an asterisk there for these guys.
Well, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the asterisks. I don't know about that, but I do think that there's no question that you have to, when you consider the numbers, you have to consider the era in which a guy played. You have to consider the number. You have to consider the fact that a guy played in the dead ball era. You have to consider the fact that a guy played in the 60s when you look at his stats, because that was an extremely pitching dominated era. I mean, it's a standard thing. It's a standard thing when you're talking about analyzing players and teams from different eras. And I think 50 years from now, people will be less mad about the steroid era and less offended by it, and will just regard it as sort of this aberration, an unfortunate aberration, but just an aberration within the long, rich history of Major League Baseball.
And pitchers did take steroids too, so I guess it was an even playing field as well.
And small ballparks, the bats are different, the strike zone is different. So many things right now favor the hitter, and even if we're going to say that there's no question that Ken Griffey is clean, he still played in an era in which lots of circumstances favored the hitter without question.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking Major League Baseball. Let's change things up a little bit and talk about another major. One of the 4 majors in golf. How's that for a transition, Mike?
Very smooth.
Very U.S. Open's taking place this week, starting Thursday into the weekend. And, Mike, what are your observations with this one? First of all, Tiger's back. He's back. So is he the odds-on favorite to win this thing?
I really don't think he is.
Okay.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, this knee thing that he has is chronic, it's ongoing, and it has some impact. It's a fairly serious thing. We don't think about golfers having to deal with injuries that much, but it's been an issue for the way that the intensity with which he practices, the intensity with which he physically works out, but more importantly, for here and now. Long layoff and coming back and playing the U.S. Open, your first tournament back. I mean, the first time he takes a swing in a golf tournament is going to be on the first tee on Thursday in the U.S. Open. The last time he did that, because of the death of his father, in completely different circumstances, he took a month off. Mm-hmm. And his first tournament back was the U.S. Open. He shot 78, 76 and missed the cut badly. Because of that, as phenomenal as he is and as ridiculously great as he is, I still don't think he's going to win this one. I still don't think he's the favorite in this week.
Yeah, I don't have much information on this. I just emailed my friend Justin Zook, name dropping, and I asked about Pinehurst. It's the wrong course, not at Pinehurst. Where are they at this weekend? They're at San Diego?
They're at Torrey Pines in San Diego, which is the other interesting thing about this Open, which is that it's on a municipal public golf course. A place where you can just go and pay a fee and go play. The only other time they've played it on this kind of a golf course was at Bethpage in Long Island, which is a there you go. Paul digs the Long Island reference.
He's a New Yorker,
and it's a course that for years and years hosted an event called the Junior World, which is this gigantic junior golf age group thing. So lots of guys that are now on the PGA Tour played on this course in junior as little kids in junior golf. And Phil Mickelson, actually, who is from San Diego, played high school matches on this golf course. Has a lot of, in addition to being, he was a great junior player too, like Tiger was. So these guys have a lot of history with Torrey Pines. Now it's the tournament, the golf course they're going to play this weekend is a much different deal than they were playing when they were 11 years old. And we're talking about, it's like 7,600 yards long, monster rough. It's going to be a tremendous test of driving the ball. Probably too long for Lancaster County's own Jim Furyk, I would think.
Oh, okay.
It would be a very difficult venue for him. Mickelson, you would think on paper, would have a great shot. It's almost like one of those things where it's too obvious, but you would think Mickelson would have a great shot in these circumstances.
You always see these around the Masters and so forth, guys, that we do these little contests. We pick our top 4 golfers, and then we try to get the lowest score. Do you have a top 4 in mind? Who are guys to watch for? We didn't really talk about this ahead of time, Mike, so I'm sorry to catch you off guard.
That's fine. I'll roll with that. I'll roll with that, my man.
You are a good
Anthony Kim.
Wow, that's a different name.
Young guy who won a couple weeks ago and is really coming on, has a ton of game. I'll take him. I'll take Mickelson. I'll take Adam Scott. who is the number 3 ranked player in the world, actually. And I'll take Sergio Garcia, who I think is the best, if we combine accuracy and length, is the best driver of the golf ball in the world.
And he just
I'll take those 4.
He just won a tournament like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Players' Championship, yeah, which is a big one. It's
like the 5th major, they always say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have any to give you yet. I'll email Justin Zook, name dropping again, and see what he says. I'll compare how they actually do this weekend with what he gives me ahead of time, and we'll run that next week.
There you go.
I sort of think with Tiger Woods, though, that even though he hasn't been able to practice as much because of this knee that's been bothering him, he's probably in his playroom at home with Wii, doing the course on Wii. Don't you think that's possible?
I think it's possible. I think what they're going to see from Thursday through Sunday out in San Diego ain't no Wii. Starkey. That ain't we, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I think we just wrapped up another good show.
Oh, smooth again.
Thank you.
Transition.
Until next week, he's Mike Gross. I'm Eric Stark, and for our producer, Paul Frantz, we'll see you again from the Low Post.